Hey, Shalom, Meshach. My start off by giving all praise to Yahweh Shem El Shah B'Shem Kudash, the belongs apostles of GMS, and honestly brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and sincerity. Right. So this is another edition. Just going through a chapter. Reading the notes on on said chapter. So this is Genesis 3. We've done Genesis 1, Genesis 2 already. Daniel 7 and Daniel 8. So this is Genesis 3 for today. So it says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. Now the serpent represents Esau, right? Before he was given that name Esau, right? It says, just like how Adam represented, the children of God, right? What would become known as the Israelites, right? So it says, more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh power had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath the Most High said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden, right? So where am I? Lost my trail of thought there, right? It says, and he said unto the woman, yea, hath the Most High said, right? Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. Right? Now, fruit of the tree, that's philosophies of the other nations. Right, as you see that. So as what basically was says, like, look, man, all of these different philosophies, don't be going into that. Right? Don't be going trying to learn this, that, and the other, learning of the ways of the heathen. Right? And I forgot to say, this serpent here isn't a snake. Right, he says this is Eve, man. You've seen how women get around mice. You've seen how women get around spiders. You're telling me the woman, the Israelite, nigga was just gonna be there chatting to a snake. No, it says what do you call it? It says allegorical. Right now, Genesis 1, 2, 3, first couple of chapters of Genesis are actually quite deep. Right, people just read it verbatim and like, oh, you mean to tell me God made the world in 7 days? Right, and all of that nonsense, right? But you when you get a better understanding of the scriptures, you realize just how deep these couple of verses, these couple of chapters are. Right, it says, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, power said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it yet, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, you shall surely not die. Right? Now, once again, you see this happening in today. You see this happening today with the serpent, once again, as we said, representing Esau, the so-called white man, right? Basically saying to the woman, look, everything you've been told, forget it. It ain't good for you. You ain't going to die. What's going to happen? Right? If you do it, right? It says, for the Most High doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as God, knowing good and evil. Right? So, look, so at this time, the Adamites, because there was more than just Adam and Eve, right? It was a whole, it was a people, right? That were referred to as the Adamites, right? You think about Cain, like where did Cain get his wives from? You read Genesis 5, I believe it says, male and female made he them, right? Or rather, made he, but yeah, it says male and female, knowing that it was a multitude of people that was made at the same time, right? So it says, shall be as God, shall be as the angels, knowing good and evil, knowing what happens when you do good and the judgment that comes if you do evil, right? It says, and the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that once again, why? Let's grab that in the precepts. This is 1 Peter 3 and 7. It says, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, right? So this is referring to a man. But let's read verse 6. What do you call it? So let me read verse. No, that's not the point. Verse 6 says, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling, 1 Peter 3 and 6, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. right? So we can tell here it says referring to interaction between a husband and a wife, right? It says likewise, ye husbands dwell with them according to knowledge, right? So when you're dealing with your woman, or even in this day and age, we deal with them to the best we can according to knowledge, right? So we apply the scriptures, we do certain things, right, to the best of our abilities, right, in this help, because there are certain things we might want to do for your woman, but they're in this world, so they're gonna Esau's fuck them. No, that's the only way you can really put it. But we do our best to dwell with our women according to knowledge of the scriptures, right? This is given honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, right? So this is the point there. So this is, when you dealing, when we deal with our women, we understand that they're the weaker vessel. We understand that they're gonna fuck up, and things are gonna, they're gonna fall short. But the way of looking at it, and I remember the Apostle Tahar was speaking on it a couple of weeks back. Is just like how he basically was saying, "Hey, the Most High has mercy on him." Right, and therefore, to some degree, every man, scripture says, no man knoweth the way between a man and his mate, but to every man, what you can, you will have mercy on your woman, right? But the point I wanted to get here is the fact that it's the weaker vessel. She's a weaker vessel. She's easier to tempt, right? And that's why Satan went to her. That's why Esau went to her. Just like today, right? Just like today, Esau went to who? He went to the woman, right? Being the weaker vessel, and the woman lapped that shit up. She lapped up. You see a cat, with some milk, lapping it up. That's what these women did when Esau came to them, man. When Esau came to them with philosophies, just like back in the garden. Right, as we were reading that was the point of that. So I'll finish this. It says, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Right. So once again, I said I was getting that to basically pull the point that our women, the woman is a weaker vessel, easier to manipulate. Right. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, right, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat, right? Yes. So yeah, Jesus basically said, look, man, these fruits, no, you can't eat an apple and then become wise. You can't eat an orange and suddenly, oh shit, I've got all the wisdom in the world, right? Just go further proving that this fruit here is allegorical for different philosophies, right? That's the understanding there, right? It says, and the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons, right? So they knew that they had sinned. They knew that had gone off, right? So fig leaves and aprons are allegories for taking on other customs, i.e. the ways of the heathen that were, around Adam and Eve at that time, right? So they basically started, picking up their customs, right? It says, and they heard the voice of Yahweh power walking in the garden in the cool of the day, right? It says the prophets, right? Right, it says, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord power amongst the trees of the garden, right? So, so this is going into the fact that basically you had the prophets that were there at the time. It says Jeremiah 42:21, Luke 1:70, right? It says trees of the garden representing the other nations, right? Ezekiel 31:5, Psalms 1:3, Mark 8:22-24. Right, cool of the dates in a metaphor meaning before the time of destruction, right, when everything is okay. For example, currently the prophets are preaching in the cool of the day, right, before the heat of the day comes, i.e. the time of Jacob's trouble, right? So it's a metaphor basically saying like, look, in the cool of the day, basically when it was all good, right, when things were were moving okay, and no more in the world, right? Right now, things are getting, what do we say? We say it's getting hot, right? So we're leaving the cool of the day. Why? Because we're saying it's getting hot, right? It says, and Yahweh power called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? Right? It says, and he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? So basically, like, how you know how you know you've been going off, right? You basically broke my law, didn't you? Right? It says, and the man said, I love this one, the way it's phrased. Right? It says, and the man said, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me. So personally, I find that funny, because it's kind of like, well, this woman that you gave me this woman. You're the one who gave me this woman. Yeah, she ate of the tree, and I ate it as well. Right, basically, because it comes across very much as not wanting to take the responsibility. And I don't know, it's the woman that you gave me. Like, look, man. So I just find that particular verse funny personally. Right, it says, she gave me of the tree and I did eat. It says, and the Lord power said unto the woman, what is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat. Right, just like, once again, it's like today, the serpent has beguiled all of these women. Right, and then basically, these, because say it says, would you call it, the serpent basically said, you will not die. And then just like now, Esau saying you will not die. And these women are like, yeah, I didn't die. Right, but what do the scriptures say? Because sentence against evil, evil work is not executed speedily. Therefore, the hearts of the sons of men is fully set into them to do evil. Right, so because the Most High hasn't judged, doesn't judge immediately, people would think, oh, I could just carry on doing what I'm doing, right? But the Lord is righteous judge, and He sees everything that has happened, and He will judge in due time, right? Yeah. It says, and the Lord and Yahweh power said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. Right now, this goes further into proving, what do you call it? This isn't an actual a serpent, right? Because they don't eat dust, right? It's representing of confusion, right? It's referring to Esau, right? And then what do you call it? Esau's got that curse on him, man, that curse of leprosy, that mark of that Cain had, right? It's the fact that he can't even go out into the sun without getting burnt, getting fucked up. Right? Excuse my French, right? It says, and I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed it shall bruise. Anitariok, I think that's my phone telling me I'm running out of space. It says, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Right? It says, in fact, I'm gonna pause it and I'm gonna come back, delete some stuff. Cool. I'm back. Just had to delete some old videos. Right, so it says, and I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Right, and this is going into the hatred that the Israelites and the Edomites have against each other. Right, because once again, Israel, Jacob, and Esau, they were born before that. But when you look at it spiritual, they were there, from the beginning, ultimately, right? Because, for instance, you have three classifications of men: the sons of God, the sons of the wicked, and the sons of men. Right? The sons of men representing the heathen nations, the sons of God representing what's the son of God, right? What's this? That is Israel, right? Yasha Allah, he's the prince of the power. He is the prince of God. He is the son of God, right? So the sons of God represent the Israelites, right? So let me grab that in the precepts. It says says Ezekiel 35:5. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, right? This is referring to Esau, right? He's had a perpetual hatred for the for the children of Israel, as we was reading there, right? And justifiably so, right? Because it's in the prophecies, right? That's why he has that hatred, right? It says, and has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Right, so Esau's been pursuing us with the sword every opportunity he had. Right, once again, you look at Cain and Abel. What did Cain do? Cain that let me not swear again, or rather, let me not use bad language again. But he basically said he did the wrong thing. So Cain did the wrong thing, right? He did the wrong thing, and then he was like, sacrificing up fruits and veg, right, to the Lord, to the Most High, little demon, man. Right, and then he killed his brother for it. He did the wrong thing, and he killed his brother for it. And then what did Esau say? Right, Esau sold his birthright, and then what did he say? He says, "Look, in the days of mourning for my father at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob." Right, so he had a desire to kill his own brother. Right, that same spirit, man. It says, "Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. If thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee." Right? So since Esau hasn't hated shedding the blood of the children of Israel and excusing himself for it. Right? For instance, I was looking at that, that 17-year-old shooter. Right? He's basically he had Tucker Carlson trying to defend him. You had all of these, these devils defending him, and that 17-year-old in the comments, right? But let it Jake miss a child support payment, and the police are, the block, yeah, he was a criminal. He should have, he should be put to death. He should have been shot by the cops. He was doing this, he was doing that, right? But that's just that hatred. Once again, it's from the garden, right? It's from the beginning, right? So we carry on. It says, "Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee." So that's the curse that was put on these women. That's why they go through, the labor pains and all of that, right? But in the kingdom, right, they ain't gonna be suffering, man, right? The Israelite woman's gonna be all right giving birth in the kingdom, right? Ain't gonna be no miscarriages, no dying from birth. You look at Rachel, well, she died giving birth to Benjamin. That ain't gonna be happening in the kingdom. Scripture says in Revelation, the 21st chapter, I believe it's 21st chapter, the 4th verse says, "There shall be no more death," right? It says, "And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring for thee, and they shall eat the herb of the field." Right, going into the fact that we'll need medicine. Right, we'll be needing medicine. That's all there is. So we know we need medicine at this point. Right, we get sick. All of that, man. It's just Sirach 43 and 8. Nope, not what I wanted. 38 and 4. Sirach 38 and 4. "The Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them." What's out of the earth is talking about your garlics, your greens, your turmerics, your you see, now I can't think of anything. All of the greens and all the herbs. You look into them, they have different things that they're good for, right? And the Lord basically made them to help keep us strong and keep us healthy. But what does Esau do? Right, he basically overfarms the land, meaning so that when you do eat the herbs, they have no, you don't really get any of the goodness out of them. Right, and then he then gives you his bloody, pharmaceuticals, man, his petrochemical, a witch's brews, right? This is, "In the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return." And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. "And unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothed them," right? God also gave them an identity, right? It says, verse 22 says, "And the Lord Yahweh power said, right, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life, and to eat and live forever," right? Let's go back to righteousness. All right, "Therefore the Lord power set him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken." From whence he was taken, right? yeah, so we like now you have to have farmers. You need to have the ox, the plowing machinery, and now obviously in with the advent of what was referred to as the industrial revolution, you got all these mechanical machines basically tilling the ground, this, that, and the other, right? So he drove out the man and he placed him east of the Garden of Eden. Sorry. So he drove out the man and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Right. Set some angels there. Right. So yeah, that was just going into Genesis, the third chapter. So as always, Lord's will, I was edifying. Till the next time. Shalom.